You once said you were an undisciplined writer, and when deadlines loom, you would lock yourself up in a hotel room. Do you still do that? Are you planning to do that for the Monkey Project?
Monkey Project is incredibly long, and I'm sure there will be points at which I lock myself in, do the equivalent of, find a cheap hotel. It can't be a nice hotel.
Okay.
You cannot actually do it if you're in a really nice swish hotel where you're going, look at me in this hotel, because then the temptation is to go, okay, I'll have a nice breakfast, I'll walk around. It has to be a kind of hotel you don't really much want to be in. I recommend Las Vegas for anybody who... but the idea... Because you want to get this done and get home, but you also just want to cut yourself off from the world. Big projects, I tend to have to be disciplined. Because I create a world in which everybody knows that from 1 o'clock each day till 6 o'clock each day, I'm off the radar. Maybe I'll go to a coffee shop and not take my phone or whatever. And I will just sit and work. Maybe I'll do it at the bottom of the garden, whatever. But yes, I am still that thing. I still look up and go, oh my God, that deadline, I'd completely forgotten about it. They are all freaking out. They pushed it back as far as it will go. Excuse me, world, I'm going to vanish for 5 days and return in a very unshaven, bleary-eyed state, but with a viable manuscript.
So you've written for a really long time, and you've written lots of stuff. How has your perspective towards writing changed over the years?
I think I used to love writing more. I used to love the process of writing more. Partly because everything I did was new. So when I was a 29-year-old writer, everything I was writing was being written for the first time. Any idea I was having for the first time. Any way of telling a story. This story had not turned up before. This mood would not have turned up before. And it made it difficult because it meant that it was as if every time I wanted to, go down to the shops, I had to invent the wheel in order to go. Now I have invented hundreds and hundreds of wheels, but there is a point at which you sort of go out there and you go, well, I can't go to the shops by bicycle. I've done that 100 times. Car, God, I did car here, and there. Oh, rickshaw? I've only done rickshaw. Okay, let's do rickshaw. But it's harder for me to just go, I'm going to do something I've never done before. And even when I start something that I've done before, that I think I've never done before, I can perceive echoes of previous ways that I've done things. I did a story recently that I was really proud of and was very the short story, and I thought, this is great, it's completely original, it's like nothing else I've ever done, and about a man who in his 30s, when he was about 14, he invented a girlfriend to impress his friends, and just talked about her and wrote her name on his school books. And, 6 months later, he'd actually had a real girlfriend and told everybody that the imaginary girlfriend had moved to Canada and just let it go. And now he's in his 30s and people start coming up to him and saying, hey, I ran into Belinda, Cassandra. She was asking after you. And he's going, who? You remember your first girlfriend. And then his mother's saying, oh, I was down at the shops. I ran into Cassandra. So it's a strange kind of creepy story. But there was a level on which when I got to the end of it, I looked at it and I went, this is one of those stories like this one and that one and that one in which this happens in that shape. And it was very reminiscent of previous stuff. So that, very long-winded answer, but that's how my attitude to writing has changed. It's harder for me to go, this is the first time.
So if the writing process is harder now, what about the streak of unpredictability that you're so well known for? Is it harder to incorporate that in? as well?
Well, it's not anything you ever wake up in the morning going, aha, I will incorporate a streak of unpredictability into this. That's just the way my head is put together. That is just the kind of thing that actually makes me go, this is a story, this is something I want to tell. This is what's so interesting about this is that it's this thing and it excites me, and I go, and it's not a story that I've ever seen before. So I don't think I've ever thought about a story in terms of let's be unpredictable. I think about stories in terms of, is this satisfying? Is it cool?
So it's just you.
It's that thing where I think the last time I was in Singapore, somebody asked me, I remember explaining at a press conference much like this at the British Council. They said, why do you write the fiction you write? And I said, look, because I'm me. It's very, very simple. You take me and John Grisham and Stephen King and you say, look, here is a tiny little cottage by the lake. What happens? And John Grisham says, it is obvious. A brave young lawyer fleeing the mob gets out of Chicago and comes and hides out in this little cabin where he meets this cute girl who's like the daughter of the caretaker, but turns out to have mob ties, but together they take on the corrupt jury system. And Stephen King goes, yes, so you have a little cabin by the lake, and then this oogly boogly thing comes out of the lake, and it's going to eat the whole house, and the people in it, and they're going, and then it goes, and they're gone. And I go, okay, so the little house gets up on its chicken legs and it walks off into the woods. And because I'm me and because they're them and because that's how we see the world.